Mixing with my career building tip: live where the work is. This is like a thing that was really important in my career, in my own career development, and I want to expand on this and sort of bring this into the modern forum of the way people are making careers and livings they're living now in terms of music production, and what I think is really the movement forward and the direction that things are going to continue to go in. And I think this is a really important part for you to really understand. So in the 80s, when I left college and I decided that I wanted to work as an engineer in the music industry, I was living in Boston, graduating from Berklee College of Music, and I really loved Boston at the time. I was a native New Englander, and I grew up in the area. That was my big town because it was a little more than an hour away from where I lived, hour and a half maybe. And so that was my place to go to hang out with my friends and get into trouble. And so I loved Boston. There was an affinity that I had to it. But I realized when I was there that although there were some nice studios, it wasn't the level of artists that I wanted to be working with. There were artists who owned studios there. Aerosmith owned a studio there. Some major artists, The Cars recorded quite a bit out of there. But in terms of the number of big artists, it was very limited. So I realized that my next closest destination was New York. My options were LA or New York, and at that time Nashville was very, very country. Now it's much more of a mix of a lot of different styles of music, but very predominantly country. So I moved to New York, and the reason why I moved there was that's where the work was. I wanted to work with the top artists in the industry. From the time I purchased the first Whitney Houston record, I said to myself, I want to work with Whitney Houston. I want to work with people of that level. And in moving to New York, within 3 years, I was working with Whitney Houston. Now, I never would have gotten there to work with Whitney Houston if I didn't go to where she would work. So it seems like a very simple thing. In other words, if you really are into electronic music, and most of the electronic music is coming out of Germany or it's coming out of England, London, if that's like the big, dance electronica scene, then you have to consider whether that's the place you want to go to, right? You want to really, really do it on a major level, and you want to kind of be where that's happening. Now, you can expand this off into many levels. There are many different styles of music that originate from different places. And if you really want to be part of that scene, and that's who you are, and that's what you live and breathe, and that's what you want to do, being in the most dense place where that exists is going to be the way that is going to be the most challenging and is going to force you to get better at a faster rate than you ever would if you're just sort of the only electronic music guy in the middle of some small town in the middle of, of the country somewhere 3 hours away from any city or major metropolitan area. So you have to consider these things. Now, in weighing all of this, I think where things have changed pretty dramatically is that the industry has moved very much online and is only gravitating that way more and more and more. You're starting to see it get added into applications where the ability to collaborate and collaboration tools, like in Cubase, actually has a plugin that allows you to collaborate in real time with people that are in a different location, and the software is built entirely into the Cubase application. And there are separate applications that are doing this, and you're seeing more and more sessions where the artist is recording in Los Angeles and the music is being played and produced from New York, and vice versa. A lot of film work has been done for voiceovers, has been done this way for a very long time. I have a good friend of mine who has a studio in New York, and that's basically what he does. He does a lot of voiceover work and a lot of connections to movies, and he lives in an area where a lot of these famous actors don't want to go all the way into New York City to work, so they go to him in his studio and they do their voiceovers there. So this type of thing is happening on a really big level. Now, you can go to where the work is, and to me, where most of the work now is coming from is online, is on the internet. And that's why I targeted my school to a platform that is new and emerging and people are getting into on bigger and bigger levels. So to me, the idea here is to push the envelope, to see how far it will go, to stretch that possibility and be on the cutting edge or on the front edge of what's going on. And whenever you're on the front edge of something, as things are developing and growing, then you become an expert in that field. And when you become an expert in any kind of field at the beginning, at the forefront of the movement, then that's the period where you can make the most of an opportunity. And that's where I see things going now. So if you are at all web savvy and you're all into, not just the social media, that's actually kind of it's a major part, but not the biggest part of it. But it is really learning to collaborate and connect with people online. Then you can establish very powerful connections in the industry and establish yourself online as a presence and start to meet and collaborate and work with big people on big levels just through that medium, no matter where you live in the world. So you don't necessarily have to move to New York City or Los Angeles if that's not what you want to do, if that's not the way you want to live. But you have to go to some way, whether it's virtually or in person, to where the work is. So live on the internet with your music and your work if that's where you want to bring it and that's how you want to sell yourself. So that's the bottom line of our Mixing with Mike career building tip. Live where the work is, or at least put yourself as close to that place as you possibly can. It's the only chance that you'll have of actually meeting and connecting with the people that will make your career goals and dreams happen.